Part 122. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 1213. 1212. He Tian smiled and said, "No, Yankee, this is a suitable place for you to recuperate. If you go to Dr. Wang's for acupuncture on time, maybe you can walk like flying in the future. As for Xiaojian, that child is very good, so I don't need to worry about it. He will eat it, just send him to school." "Yes, Yankee, don't worry anymore," Mrs. Huo said, "the most important thing is to take good care of your health. Besides, Xiaojian is old and very obedient. But Ruxiang is a little naughty, Tian, you have to take good care of it." Tube. He Tian nodded and said, "That's natural, I can't control it. There is Yingja, who can definitely control it honestly. Huo Yingja usually doesn't talk much and is very gentle, but the children in the family are afraid of Huo Yingja, especially when Huo Yingja teaches their children. No one dares to talk back to Huo Yingja." "Yes, Yankee, don't worry about that," Mrs. Huo said, "be obedient and stay to recuperate. This is a rare opportunity." "I'm not worried, I just think it's too much trouble for the second sister-in-law," Huo Yankee said, looking at He Tian apologetically. "No trouble, I like Xiaojian too," He Tian said. "It just so happened that the youth swimming team in Yanjing City started recruiting people. I want to take Xiaojian to try. If possible, he can get more professional training. And the competition will be good for him in the future." "Thank you, second sister-in-law," Huo Yankee said gratefully. For Xiaojian, second sister-in-law was particularly helpful to Xiaojian. "You're welcome, it's just a matter of convenience," He Tian smiled and said, "maybe she had saved their mother and son." Xiaojian was very close to He Tian. Some secrets were kept with his aunt instead of telling his mother. He Tian likes well-behaved children, so she is naturally willing to give him some help and opportunities. The child is promising, and she is happy as an elder. The elders spoke highly of He Tian. With such a daughter-in-law, it would make sense for the old Huo family not to prosper. Early the next morning, He Tian, Bai Qianjiao, He Jingyu, his wife, and their 7 children returned to Yanjing. Huo Yingja drove to the airport early to greet him. 2 commercial vehicles were waiting at the special passage, and the group got into the commercial vehicles directly. Lao Guo and his wife have already tidied up the children's rooms. Together with He Daodu, there are 7 children in the family. "Grandma, if you stay in Yanjing for a few days, I will honor you." He Tian smiled and massaged her grandmother's shoulders. Bai Qianjiao smiled and said, "Actually, you have done a good job. Really, calculate the time, we will fly the day after tomorrow. When your brother grows up, I will be able to retire completely. At that time, I will go to Kijia village, make a yard over there and rest there." "Yeah, take care, Grandma," He Tian said. "By the way, have you taken the pills I gave you before? Are they effective?" "It's very good. I'm in good health. If you have any, give me some more," Bai Qianjiao said with a smile. She really wants to live a long life now so that she can see her children and younger generations, which is also a kind of happiness. She didn't smile much when she was young, but in her old age, she lived happily every day. The same goes for Xianglan. She didn't come over this time. Instead, she went to Xi'an for a trip and will meet up in Yanjing tomorrow. "Yes, I have made a few bottles and will bring them to Grandma later," He Tian said. "Sometimes I think about it, I am quite unfilial. I can't go out to visit you, and you have to go back home every time. Haha, some things cannot hinder your filial piety. We have already felt your filial piety, so don't worry about the small details," Bai Qianjiao said. Happiness and peace are our greatest expectations." He Tian gently hugged her grandmother and said, "Grandma is so kind. I was even touched by what she said. Haha, Bai Qianjiao said with a smile, my granddaughter is also good. Wang Shuping brought over rose tea and said, Mother, drink tea. Thank you, Bai Qianjiao said, although I regret that you can't go abroad, you are very happy. Your parents and I are very happy, and that is enough. Yes, Tian Tian, so don't feel guilty. Wang Shuping looked at her daughter lovingly, I just want our family to be healthy and safe. Well, I've written it down, he Tian Tian said, I happen to be free tomorrow. Grandma, you like cheongsam? Let's go and make some custom-made ones. I'll mail them to you then. Okay, I like the cheongsam here the best, Bai Qianjiao said, the old tailors in Chinatown also make good ones, but I always feel like something is missing. Okay, let's go tomorrow, he Tian Tian said, there are also cloth shoes, which are very comfortable on the feet. The next day, after he Tian Tian sent the children to school and Huo Yingzhe went to work, he Tian Tian took her mother and grandmother, he Daodu, to go shopping. I went to a time-honored brand and made several cheongsams for my grandmother, some thin, some for spring and autumn, and some for winter. The same goes for the shoes on my feet, and I bought several pairs. Bai Qianjiao likes the embroidered shoes here. Now they not only have embroidery, but also pearls. She liked it very much and even customized a pair of embroidered shoes inlaid with jade from her boss. If the stuff is good, the price will naturally not be low. But Bai Qianjiao could afford it and was willing to spend it. Wang Shuping also made several clothes and bought shoes. After a day of shopping, he Daodu bought a pair of cloth shoes. As for the long gown, he didn't like it. The moment of departure came. Bai Qianjiao and others got on the plane and watched the plane take off. Huo Yingzhe specially asked for leave to see his father-in-law and mother-in-law. Well, this separation is for the next reunion, he Tian Tian said, as long as we do well, they can rest assured. If you are not happy, they will also feel uncomfortable. I know, it's just that I can't get over it for a while, he Tian Tian said, if you take me to eat delicious food, I will be happy. Okay, Huo Yingzhe agreed, I'll take you to something delicious today. Where, he Tian Tian asked, have we been there before? I've never been there, Huo Yingzhe said, don't ask yet, you'll know when you get there. Huo Yingzhe drove to a small alley and found duck blood and vermicelli soup. Even without entering the door, he Tian Tian could smell the fragrance. Oh, this tastes just like the one in Nanshi, he Tian Tian said, I've wanted to eat it for a long time. Haha, if you like to eat, then you should eat more, Huo Yingzhe said. When he misses his family, it is best to eat the food from his childhood. I want to eat 2 bowls, he Tian Tian said, inhaling the fragrance in the air. Boss, your food tastes very good, he Tian Tian said, it's just like the one in Nanshi. Yes, we used to live in Nanshi, but our son came here to work, so we followed him. When we had nothing to do, we opened a shop to make some money to support our family. A clean old woman came over and smiled. He said, would you like 2 bowls? Let's have 2 bowls first, add more duck blood and duck intestines, he Tian Tian said, 1 bowl will have coriander, and 1 bowl will not have coriander. Okay, please wait a moment, the old woman agreed with a smile and went to the kitchen. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 1214. 1213. The taste was indeed very good. He Tian Tian actually ate 2 big bowls, and Huo Yingzhe ate 1 bowl and left with satisfaction, and the feeling of parting was much lessened. Life returns to peace. Children grow up day by day, and old people get older day by day. Young people like He Tian Tian and Huo Yingzhe have become more and more mature and have gradually supported the family. In 1989, the most significant student incident occurred. Their intentions were good, but they were only instigated and exploited by some people, and tragedy still occurred. Because of Huo Jekin's reminder in Suzhou, Li Qiang's management was very strict and nothing happened. Huo Zheqian of Nanhu province was more cautious and did not involve students. But the impact is finally smaller than in the previous life. 1990, Asian Games. He Tiantian signed up for 3 events and won gold medals in all of them. Young athletes such as Sci-fi Fei and 11 Rong Rong have also grown up. Among them, Sci-fi Fei won 2 gold medals, 11 Rong Rong won a gold medal, a silver medal, and a bronze medal, and Lu Yuhua won 2 silver medals, with outstanding results. Zhu's Hitao has become the most powerful coach of the national team because his athletes have achieved good results. During this period, Hetian nation's industry was developing very well. Fuxi Automobile has become the largest automobile company in the country and can bring huge profits to Hetian every year. The stores in Sanfenqiao and the delicacies in Sanfenqiao are also very famous throughout the country. The one that developed the fastest was Tang Qian's entertainment company. There are many artists under his command, and they shoot several TV series and movies every year. Li Xian has become the most famous actor in China and has won several domestic awards. Zhang Wenwen's career is also very big, designing men's clothing, women's clothing, and sports services. With the help of He Tiantian and other sisters, it is at its peak and can almost compete with foreign brands. Yuanhua's beauty magazine has obviously become the #1 fashion magazine in the country. At the same time, Yuanhua has also published a lot of poems in the past few years. He published 3 collections of poems, most of which were composed to music and included in various albums by Qi Xiaoyan. Qi Xiaoyan has improved her ethnic singing and popular singing, and has obviously become a diva-level figure in the country, no worse than the kings and queens of Xiangjiang, and even more popular. It is worth mentioning that Tang Pingan wrote The Legend of the Dragon, which created a new novel form. However, it is his tomb-robbing adventure novels that made him famous, and he has now serialized 5 novels. The 6th part is currently being created, and Tang Qian has already booked the adaptation rights, whether for TV or film, with Tang Dynasty Media. Thanks to He Tiantian, Tang Pingan did not give the copyright to others, and the price Tang Qian gave was very good, enough to satisfy Tang Pingan. Wu Yaoliang and Huang Jingli's water heaters have ranked first in the country. Now they are starting to develop other bathroom products, and even now want to develop products such as kitchen appliances and range hoods, which are developing extremely rapidly. Huo Ruxiang is now a junior at Renmin University. Huo Ruhua was admitted to Huaqing University majoring in computer science, and Huo Ruimin was admitted to Yenching University majoring in economics and management. They are both freshmen. As for Huo Jian, he is now an athlete on the national swimming team. He has won 2 gold medals at the World Youth Championships and is a national seed player. As for Huo Xianxian, she has also grown into a tall and graceful girl. Nowadays, I am in my 2nd year of high school and have not yet entered college. As for Huo Xiaosan, his grades are not very good, but he likes playing football most and plays in the youth football club. The football club in Yanjing was not mature yet, so He Tiantian funded a club for his son. Huo Xiaosan can get systematic football training there, and during the summer vacation, he can also go to foreign youth training teams to study. In the blink of an eye, the children all had their own lives and no longer surrounded He Tiantian one by one. Fortunately, He Tiantian still has a career, so she doesn't feel lonely. The most important thing is that He Tiantian has Huo Yingzhe, the most important person, by his side. He Tiantian was very satisfied after reading these reports. This year is another good year. When the time came, He Tiantian greeted everyone and left the company. Huo Yingzhe was already waiting downstairs. "Have you been waiting for a long time?" He Tiantian asked. She didn't pay attention to the time just now. "No," Huo Yingzhe said with a smile, "today is your birthday. I will take you out to play. We will be alone at noon, and we will celebrate your birthday together in the evening." He Tiantian said sweetly in her heart, "Although celebrating my birthday makes me 1 year older, I am still very happy because you love me and love me as always. I will love you and love you even more in the future. Huo Yingzhi smiled and kissed his wife gently on the forehead. Thank you for having you. He Tian kissed Huo Yingzhi back. Huo Yingzhi drove to a French restaurant. The environment here is very nice and atmospheric. Huo Yingzhi and He Tian are not only here to enjoy delicious food, but also to enjoy the rare world between two people. While waiting for the food, Huo Yingzhi took out a velvet box and placed it in front of He Tian. My gift. He Tian was surprised. What is it? I'm really looking forward to it. Huo Yingzhi smiled mysteriously and said, you'll know when you open it. He Tian's eyes were filled with excitement. She opened the box carefully. Inside was a pink zeoflower pendant. The zeoflower underneath was made of who knows what material it was made of. It was cool and thin in her hand. The chain is made of platinum-like material. It's so beautiful, He Tian said in surprise. Thank you, I like it very much. Huo Yingzhi got up and put the necklace on He Tian. Thank you, He Tian said, raised her head, and kissed Huo Yingzhi when he lowered his head. Huo Yingzhi was also very happy to see that his wife liked him. These gifts were carefully prepared by him. Not only are they beautiful, but they can also protect He Tian when he is in danger. The couple had a nice lunch and then went shopping and bought a lot of things. When I got home in the evening, my nephews, children, and even Mr. Huo, Mrs. Huo, and Grandma Wang all came to celebrate He Tian's birthday. There is a surprise today. Bai Qianjiao, Mr. and Mrs. He Jingyu, and classmate He Daodu are also here. Naturally, none of He Tian's good sisters can be missing. Qi Xiaoyan, Zhang Wenwen, Qi Jinmin, and Yuan Hua all came dressed up. Not only did he and the others come, one of them also brought his family with him just now. There was a big cake in the yard, with 4 large tables beside it, and it was very lively. When He Tian came in, everyone sang happy birthday to you together. Being with Huo Yingzhi was the sweetness of love. Now seeing so many people, she felt moved by family affection. It's great to have such a family, such relatives, and such friends. Really good. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 1215. 1214. Time flies, and soon it's 1991. This year, because of the situation in the Soviet Union and Gorbachev's reforms, society was very complicated and turbulent. Every small country has its own plans. Huo Yingzhi was originally junior. After working at the embassy in Moscow for a period of time, he was posted to Ukraine. The situation in Ukraine is more complicated than in Moscow. Domestic instability, economic turmoil, soaring prices, people's living standards are gradually declining, and domestic and foreign conflicts are soaring. Huo Yingzhi learned about the turmoil in the Soviet Union from his brother, and began to make arrangements in the Soviet Union, especially in Ukraine. In order to obtain more military equipment and technology, Huo Yingzhi privately obtained help from the country and received support from the domestic military. As long as you can get advanced technology, you can pay a huge price. In the face of foreign technology blockades, the equipment obtained through domestic investment promotion are all civilian technologies, and many of them have been castrated by developed countries. The current turmoil in the Soviet Union is a very good opportunity. The news obtained in China was also secretly transmitted by Huo Yingzhi. The country is now divided into 3 factions. One faction supports Huo Yingzhi's intelligence and believes that the disintegration of the Soviet Union is just a matter of time. The other faction believes that the great and powerful Soviet regime will never collapse and the huge Soviet Union will not disintegrate. The third group, they remain neutral and wait and see what happens. Huo Yingzhe jointly reported to the top leaders above that if they could get some relevant equipment and technology, they would have the ability to build an aircraft carrier. As soon as they heard about the aircraft carrier, the leaders' eyes lit up. However, most people don't believe that such a powerful thing cannot be built with the existing technology. Even if you get the technology and equipment, you may not be able to build it. However, Huo Yingzhe insisted that it was possible. Even if it was not possible now, it did not mean that it would not be possible in the future. While the argument continued, Huo Yingzhe handed over information saying that Ukraine intended to sell an aircraft carrier privately. No matter whether it can be made or not, buy it first and study it. To achieve leapfrog development of science and technology, we must first have basic technology. As long as there is an aircraft carrier to refer to, China can always build its own aircraft carrier. However, we still face a problem: no money. Therefore, there has been no reply from the higher authorities. Seeing that the Soviet Union is about to disintegrate, we can take advantage of the chaos and succeed, but because of money, we have been unable to make a decision. Huo Yingzhe knew that in the future, Variag would buy it back 10 years later. The setbacks he experienced during this period were definitely not something that could be explained in a few sentences. If you take advantage of the chaos this time, you can easily get it over. But if you miss this opportunity, you will have to go through the setbacks of your previous life again, which will cost you money and time. So Mr. Huo summoned his eldest son, second son, and grandson Huo Yingzhe to study at home. This time, he also called the Tang family and the Ma family. Their family alone would not be able to accomplish this task. Mr. Huo's study is not small, but there were quite a lot of people here today, so it seemed a bit crowded. Here, Huo Yingzhe is young, so he plays the role of serving tea and water. I called you here today because of the purchase of an aircraft carrier that was discussed earlier. Mr. Huo said, my eldest grandson is still in Ukraine. Although this matter is led by businessmen, I guarantee the credibility of the Huo family that this is true. As long as we can get permission from above and have enough money, we can buy it. Everyone has known the importance of the Navy for a long time, but its development costs money. However, a Navy cannot be built overnight, especially with cutting-edge equipment. Of course, Mr. Huo said firmly, even if it is fake, I will give it a try, not to mention the information from my eldest grandson himself. Aircraft carriers are not just aircraft carriers, they represent the most advanced productivity. Let's take when it arrives, not only will there be many improvements in military aspects, but it will also be of great help to other aspects. Yes, of course I know the importance of aircraft carriers, Ma Kuoxing said with emotion. Isn't the reason why Country M is so awesome because it has several advanced aircraft carriers? When I visited Country M before, I boarded Country M. I wish I could keep my eyes on someone else's aircraft carrier. It's so spectacular, and its military equipment is very advanced. I can only envy it. If you can confirm it, I will get the unit. As for money, I can't help. When Mr. Tang heard what his two friends said, he looked at his eldest son and then at Huo Jekan. He felt that this time, he was going to do something big. Let Tang Li and Jekan figure out the money matter, Mr. Tang said. Huo Jekan's family knew about his own affairs. He looked at each other and said with a wry smile to Tang Li, but we can't afford that much foreign exchange. When they thought of the huge sum of tens of millions, everyone fell silent. Money is very scarce when it comes to use. 1 penny can kill a good man, let alone tens of millions of dollars. Now the country's foreign exchange reserves dare not take action without authorization. Huo Yingzhe poured tea for everyone, and then heard his father's words and asked, Father, how much does it cost in total? 20 million US dollars. Tang Ji replied, the country cannot afford that much money. How much money can the country spend in total? Huo Yingzhe asked. He was working for the country, but he couldn't be asked to pay for it all. Tang Li held out a collection with 5 fingers, This is the number I found. 5 million, Huo Yingzhe frowned. It was a little less than a quarter. With shipping costs, it would have doubled. Tang Li and Huo Jekan looked even more embarrassed when they heard this. Tang Li lowered his head and stopped talking, letting Huo Jekan do the talking. Huo Jekan was speechless and had no choice but to bite the bullet and said, $50,000. Ahem. Upon hearing this, Huo Yingzhe kept coughing and was choked. 500,000? It's not enough to cover the staff's travel expenses. Only 500,000 yuan, you still want to buy an aircraft carrier? Huo Yingzhe's voice was high. His eldest brother and the Huo family had spent so much effort to improve military technology, break the technological blockade imposed on China by the outside world, and achieve leapfrog development. However, everything is ready, all we need is the east wind. But the east wind cannot blow. Huo Yingzhe thought that the original $5 million was a bit small, but he didn't expect that they could come up with even less, $500,000. In the previous chapter, the children went to college because they skipped a grade and successfully fixed the bug, ****. He. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 1216. 1215. Why don't you go and rob it? If you can rob it, you would have robbed it long ago. It's not that you can't rob it. Now everyone's eyes are all on Huo Yingzhe. Huo Yingzhe has always had many ideas, and whether it can succeed this time probably depends on him. Huo Yingzhe smiled bitterly and said, although the price is $20 million, it will probably take several times the dollars to transport it. He has money in his account, and it is his own money, but it is also under the supervision of the state. It seems that the money cannot be kept, but it is only 60 million, and there is still a lot of money missing. Hundreds of millions. Ma Qiuxing was very disappointed when he heard this, and it was dollars. With so much money, it is estimated that you can't buy an aircraft carrier. It's probably impossible to rely on state funding, Huo Yingzhe said with a wry smile. I'll find a way to deal with the money, but how to transport it back is the country's business. I can't ask some patriotic businessmen to pay and ask them to do the work. You know, such a purchase will not be successful without the participation of the country behind the scenes. Old man Tang nodded and said, Yingzhe, you are right. If you can raise money and buy an aircraft carrier, we will definitely find a way to transport it back. Ma Qiuxing said anxiously, even if I have to carry it, I will carry it back. People with poor ambitions have short ambitions. When it comes to money, Ma Qiuxing is timid, but when it comes to other things, Ma Qiuxing is absolutely unambiguous. Okay, I think the country should set up a special working group to be responsible for this incident. After all, I found Hong Kong or overseas Chinese through my connections. They are willing to pay, but the country is embarrassed to accept it with peace of mind. It must give something to give them a better business environment. That's no problem. I'll report to the superiors when I go back, Ma Qiuxing said. The reason why he dared to come must be that he was instructed by the superiors. He represents not only himself, but also the superiors. The superiors usually don't see guests because of health reasons. After Ma Qiuxing went to report, the gentleman specially called Mr. Huo and Mr. Tang to go over and secretly explain some things. It is necessary to buy the aircraft carrier back. This sentence is simple, but also very heavy. The superiors instructed to set up a working group to cooperate with the work of the Huo family. After Huo Yingzhe returned home, he told He Tiantian about what happened today. How much money do you need in total? He Tiantian asked. She also had 10 or 20 million dollars in her personal account, which was the dividends she received from her grandmother. 100 million, Huo Yingzhe said. I have 60 million, and there is still a gap of 40 million. Too expensive. He Tiantian took a breath. The aircraft carrier itself is not expensive, but it costs a lot of money to transport it back. After all, there are many small countries that take advantage of the fire on the way. Yes, Huo Yingzhi said, the money I have abroad has always been there, and I don't need it. The country also knows it, so I want to spend it and make contributions for the Huo family. Every family is not invincible, which requires one after another to make up for it. The Huo family is no exception. Well, okay, I have 15 million over there, and I'll give it to you, He Tian said. The money we have in China is enough for us to spend. There is still a shortfall of 25 million, I will go to Hong Kong to find a way. Not only do we have to let them pay, but we also have to let them provide necessary help for the transportation of the aircraft carrier. After all, there is a shipping tycoon in Hong Kong. If we don't let them use their abilities, wouldn't it be a waste? That's fine, Huo Yingzhi nodded, thank you for your hard work. I will accompany you there in private when the time comes. Okay, I have to go to Hong Kong to attend an event anyway, so it's just the right time to do this, He Tian said. I'm only responsible for collecting money, I can't do anything else. Actually, you don't have to do anything, just introduce the working group members to those people, and they will talk, Huo Yingzhi said. This is also to make things easier. He Tian, Huo Yingzhi went to Hong Kong and introduced some reliable patriotic businessmen, and then the working group went to talk. Soon enough money was raised, and Huaxia sent a strong team to transport it, but it was not blatant, but a private business behavior. However, in private, orders were issued to the relevant agencies below to cooperate in transporting the aircraft carrier. Country and European countries intervened, but Ukraine had already received the money, so it was not my thing, but H country's business. Especially after leaving the port, it had nothing to do with them. H country's business team began to operate, and this aircraft carrier used for entertainment purposes began to slowly approach H country. In order to prevent foreign forces intercepted on the road, so the team members broke up into small pieces, dismantled all the things inside, disguised them as goods, and loaded them into merchant ships. At this time, the shipping tycoons in Hong Kong came in handy. As expected, after being intercepted on the road, they accused H country of preparing for military use. However, after entering, they found that it was just an empty shell, which was indeed a very good choice for decorating it as a casino. It cost a lot of money just to deal with various monsters, even several times the value of the items. Even if the money was spent, it was not necessarily the end of the matter. At that time, they came forward and agreed to many rude conditions of a small country that took advantage of the fire to transport the aircraft carrier. On this day, there may not be much wind and waves in the outside world, but everyone was excited. All other disassembled parts have been collected, and the country has established the highest research working group to start research and development. At the same time, the huge Soviet Union disintegrated. The world was shocked, especially country M and those countries in the West, thinking that the biggest threat had been lifted. However, when they reacted, another lion began to awaken again. The aircraft carrier is already lying in the dock of Dalian shipbuilding, and the country has launched a nationwide recruitment order to jointly develop the aircraft carrier. If you don't dismantle it into 8 pieces, it won't be worthy of everyone's hard work in transporting it. Huo Yingzhi continued to transport military materials and advanced equipment through other channels. During this split, a lot of resources and advanced equipment were obtained, and there were even many experts in various fields. The role played by the Huo family during this period is obvious to all. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 1217. 1216. If the elder is in good health and the eldest son has good grades and is polite, Huo Yingzhi and his wife will have no worries. Now is Huo Yingzhi's rising period, and he can't stop for a moment. A daunting task, but very important. He Tian participated in another Olympic Games, won another gold medal, and retired as a legend of an era. After the busy life calmed down, He Tian was at a loss for a while. Fortunately, the clubhouse had been built. When He Tian wanted to swim, he could invite a few sisters to come and swim together. There were even retired athletes who were not assigned good jobs, so He Tian hired a few of her former colleagues to come over and teach people how to swim together, and the income was good. Huo Jian does have swimming talent and works very hard. He has already begun preparing for the World Youth Championships. With He Tianations and here, Huo Jian is doing well in the swimming team. He Tianations cultivation is also proceeding slowly and orderly. She doesn't deliberately change her appearance, letting nature take its course is also a form of practice. However, just when the Huo family was prospering, Song Chunli, who was working in Nanhu province with her husband, ran home crying. Mrs. Huo was getting old. When she saw her daughter-in-law crying like this, she was so frightened that she almost fainted. She quickly asked, "Chunli, what's wrong with you? What happened?" Zhang Lifang received a call from the nanny and hurried over. Over the years, the two sisters got along very well, but suddenly they heard that Song Chunli came back crying. She couldn't stay idle at home and hurried over to take a look. "Mom, Zheqian is so old and he actually raises a little goblin outside." Song Chunli choked, her eyes were red and she didn't believe it, but she couldn't help but believe what she saw with her own eyes. She wanted to make a scene, but she was afraid of discrediting the Huo family. After all, the Huo family was not an ordinary family now. If she cries and throws a tantrum, it will make other people laugh. So after repeated communication with her husband, she didn't bother to argue with her husband and went back to Yanjing without seeing any signs of repentance. She couldn't cure Huo Zheqian, and she still had her father-in-law and mother-in-law at home. After hearing Song Chunli's words, Mrs. Huo and Zhang Lifang couldn't believe that Huo Zheqian, who had always been upright, could find a woman outside. "You must know that Huo Zheqian is already 633 this year, and he will retire after working for a few years at most." "No way, Zheqian. When he was young, he didn't do anything random. Now that his grandson is an adult, he is actually looking for women outside." Mrs. Huo obviously did not believe that her son could do such immoral things. She believed that her son was decent. Zhang Lifang didn't believe it either and asked, "Sister-in-law, have I seen it with my own eyes?" "Yes," Song Chunli said, "I saw the smell of a woman on his clothes before, and then I saw him going to a luxury community. I asked Xiao Lin next to me to investigate, and found out that the woman was kept outside by Huo Zheqian." "The woman?" I asked him, and he was still quibbling at first, but after I told him the location and the woman's name, he immediately admitted that I told him to break up with the woman. After all, he was in love with her. At my age, if I waste so much energy, my lifespan will be shortened. But he didn't listen. When I told my parents-in-law, he actually wanted to divorce me." "No way," Zhang Lifang was shocked. "Divorce? In a family like ours, why should we mention divorce? Especially when you have been married for decades, and your son and grandson are so old. If you divorce, it won't be enough." Others are laughing at it. Did Huo Zheqian not care about the Huo family's face and want to bring shame to the Huo family? This is not Huo Zhe's style. "Yeah, I didn't believe it at first, but Zheqian seemed to be possessed. Even if we had quarreled before, he never looked like that." Song Chunli choked, "Mom, please tell Dad about Zheqian Bar." Zhang Lifang comforted Song Chunli and said, "Sister-in-law, don't be sad. You have been busy in the Huo family for so many years, and you have worked hard without any credit. Your parents-in-law will definitely make the decision for you." When Mr. Huo came back from a walk outside, he heard his second daughter-in-law's words and asked with a smile, "Chunli, don't cry. Tell me what happened." Song Chunli told what happened to Huo Jekian again. Mr. Huo was furious after hearing this and cursed directly, "Asshole." In the past, the eldest daughter-in-law may have been lacking in things, but compared to the eldest daughter-in-law in other families, she was already doing well. The husband and the children will be raised for a lifetime, and that bastard divorces her with just one sentence, which is sheer nonsense. If Huo Zhe did it in front of him, Mr. Huo would definitely beat him up. "Chunli, don't cry either," Mr. Huang said, "he can't make the decision in this marriage. Unless, he is no longer a member of the Huo family." After hearing what her father-in-law and mother-in-law said, Song Chunli felt slightly relieved. "Then do we still need to tell the handsome man in Russia?" Mrs. Huo asked, looking at Song Chunli and Mr. Huo. Song Chunli quickly waved her hands and said, "Don't tell Yingjun, we can handle everything easily at home. Yingjun works abroad, so he is already under a lot of pressure, and he must act cautiously and not make any mistakes. Even if Huo Jekian divorces me, my son, and my grandson are all right, I can see clearly. If my son gets the news, he won't be able to come back for a while, so he can only worry." That damn ghost didn't feel sorry for her son, but she still felt sorry for him. After hearing what the eldest daughter-in-law said, Mrs. Huo and Mr. Huo were very satisfied. Being able to take the overall situation into consideration, it seems that Song Chunli has indeed improved a lot in these years. Unlike when she was young, she would yell when something happened. "Okay, it's good for you to feel sorry for your son and take the overall situation into consideration," Mrs. Huo said, "you just stay in Yanjing and rest at home. You should also take good care of Ruxiang and don't be sad. I will handle this matter with your father, I will definitely give you an explanation." Mr. Huo was angry. The younger members of the family had not yet gotten involved with women, but the eldest son, who was over 60 years old, was raising a young woman outside. If a good family tradition is ruined like this, then the Huo family is not far from being ruined. "Yes, have a good rest," Mr. Huo said. After his eldest daughter-in-law went upstairs, he went to the study to call his eldest son. Mr. Huo was very angry that no one answered the phone. When Zhang Lifang went home at night, she told her husband, son, and daughter-in-law about the big house. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 1218. 1217. But this is said behind the back of children. It is not good for children to hear the scandals of elders. The situation is unclear now, and Zhang Lifang dare not tell her junior rashly. Ahem, when his wife said that his eldest brother had a woman outside, his sister-in-law was so angry that she returned to Yanjing. Huo Jekian, who was drinking tea, choked and coughed repeatedly. What's all this? This is nonsense. His eldest brother is not a desire-oriented person and would not do such ridiculous things. Be careful, Zhang Lifang quickly patted her husband on the back. A person of this size can still choke on water. I've made a deal with you. If you dare to imitate your elder brother and act mischievously outside, I will do it directly, so you can't be a man. As a doctor, you are very familiar with the human body, so you can guarantee that you will not notice anything. Ahem, Huo Jekian looked embarrassed. Son, my daughter-in-law is here, what are you talking about? When you were young, you didn't do anything stupid. When you get older, even if you want to do anything stupid, it's just because you have more than enough intentions but not enough energy. Besides, now that he is at the peak of his career, he cannot mess around and ruin his job. Your grandson and granddaughter are all grown up, how dare you mess around? Shameless. Humph, Zhang Lifang was not happy. Anyway, the old man is quite angry about this matter. You can call me when you have time and ask about the situation. At your age, you can't act like this. He has got carried away in his old age. Don't let our whole Huo family be embarrassed. It's hard for the younger generation to be a good person outside. Huo Jekan nodded, but at the same time he felt a little confused and said, "That's not right, eldest brother is not such a person. He attaches great importance to career, and he is more stable and values face. He should not do such a thing." Zhang Lifang thought of her sister-in-law crying so sadly, and sighed. My sister-in-law didn't believe it either, but she saw it with her own eyes, and her eldest brother even threatened her with divorce. It can be seen that she is either sincere, or she is possessed. He Tiantian was startled when he heard that he was possessed by evil spirits, and immediately looked at Huo Yingzhe. Huo Yingzhe also seemed to have found the key to the matter. Outsiders found it strange, but everyone only saw the surface, and no one knew what was going on inside. I think we should send someone to investigate. If someone really frames the uncle, or if the uncle is really possessed by evil spirits, it will be even more dangerous, Huo Yingzhe said. We can't mess up our situation. The Huo family is now in a high position, but at the same time it is like a raging fire cooking oil, becoming the envy of others and even a thorn in others' eyes, so the Huo family must be more cautious and cautious. Yes, Huo Jekan nodded. I'll send someone here to take a look. Don't you know someone who knows metaphysics? Let them take a look too. Okay, Huo Yingzhe nodded. I'll make arrangements. This should be done sooner rather than later. At night, Huo Yingzhe and He Tiantian lay in bed, unable to fall asleep for a long time. Normally, they would do something they loved, but today neither of them were in the mood. Brother Yingzhe, do you think my uncle is really possessed by evil spirits? He Tiantian frowned and said, do you remember? We also have an enemy who is absconding outside. He guessed that if he was possessed by evil, the target would probably be Su Weiwei. Are you referring to Su Weiwei? Huo Yingzhe asked. His first reaction was also that of the woman who inherited the mantle of Granny Mappa. When she absconded last time, he didn't have time to track her down, so he might just let her grow up and cause trouble to the world. Yes, He Tiantian replied, you know, that woman has inherited Granny Ma's mantle, and she must have powerful methods. Huo Yingzhe thought for a moment and said, okay, I'll let Huashan go take a look tomorrow. He has been very busy with work recently and has no time to go there. Well, you should also pay attention to safety, He Tiantian said. Our family has reached its peak now, and we are afraid of an accident, which will cause a chain reaction and lead to the consequences of prosperity. I know, you should pay attention to safety when you travel, Huo Yingzhe explained. You must bring bodyguards and Kui Ying with you. The couple discussed it at night, and Huashan also went on a business trip to Nanhu province. Huo Yingzhe had just gone outside to work when Li Xian hurried back from outside. Oops, He Tiantian was curious, didn't you go filming? Why did you suddenly come back? Li Xian took a sip of jasmine tea, breathed a long sigh of relief, and said, hey, you still remember that you fell on the island of Demon Night? I felt that you were in danger in the demon world, and I opened the space crack in a hurry without paying attention. I saw two goblins not far away from me. They moved quickly and ran out of the cracks in space. I saw clearly that one of them was a vixen. I was filming in Nanhu City and seemed to feel her nearby, so I went to investigate. Actually turned into a very famous local female entrepreneur. I wanted to catch her, but was stopped by another woman. The woman didn't know what method to use, so that my magic was blocked. I couldn't deal with her. Suddenly I remembered that Huo Yingzhe had been chasing an apprentice of the Jiangtu master before and lost him, so I hurriedly came over and told him to follow me to deal with them. He Tiantian was stunned for a moment after hearing this. Not only Su Weiwei, but also a vixen. Just now Li Xian said that there were two spirits that ran away before, but what about the other one? Li Xian, is there another spirit? He Tiantian asked, What is that? Don't you know? Li Xian scratched his head and said, I haven't found it yet. If that vixen could take care of herself, I wouldn't bother to take care of her. But she actually used her charm to seduce many officials, traded power for money, and even offered herself to your uncle, becoming his concubine, and bewitching him. He Tian was dumbfounded again. Huashan had just left when Li Xian brought such explosive news. He also found a mistress, who turned out to be a vixen. What made He Tian even more worried was that the vixen actually formed an alliance with the sorcerer Su Weiwei, so the vixen must have a deep meaning for finding Huo Jagan. Then I'll call brother Yingji quickly, He Tian said hurriedly, lest it's too late and cause a disaster. He Tian went to call Huo Yingji, who was in a meeting. He Tian was very anxious. She wanted to find Huo Yingji, but she thought that every time she went to Huo Yingji's unit, it would take 2 hours just to check. Thinking of this, He Tian gave up the idea of looking for Huo Yingji. She continued to call Huo Yingji's unit, and the person who answered the phone was the female assistant who had recently been assigned to Huo Yingji. He Tian said, tell your chief engineer Huo that his wife is in trouble, immediately, right now. He Tian's attitude was very good just now, but now the situation is urgent and she can't care so much. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 1219. 1218. Zhou Yuanchao happened to come out. Hearing Assistant Wu's words, he immediately answered the phone, Sister-in-law, what happened at home? Anyway, tell brother Yingji now to ask him to come back. There are important things at home, He Tian said. Zhou Yuanchao was much easier to talk to than Assistant Wu. That woman thought that being Huo Yingji's assistant would make her superior to others. After the family matter is resolved, the first thing to do is to transfer Assistant Wu to other jobs. What the hell, I can't tell the seriousness of things, and I can tell you have ulterior motives at first glance. Okay, sister-in-law, just wait, I'll inform the boss right away, Zhou Yuanchao agreed quickly. After hanging up the phone, he looked up at Assistant Wu who was not far away. If it wasn't an urgent matter, my sister-in-law would never be so nervous. Assistant Wu, if you receive a call from your sister-in-law in the future, no matter what the boss is doing, please inform Mr. Huo immediately, Zhou Yuanchao said sternly. This Assistant Wu was sent by a certain boss. Even the boss must give in. Point. Maybe their concession made Assistant Wu a little arrogant and ignorant. Also, there was something wrong with the way Assistant Wu looked at the boss, and he probably had some thoughts about the boss. But Mr. Huo is attending a seminar, which is very important, Assistant Wu said forcefully. Everyone knows Mr. Huo's rules. As a small employee, I can't break them. Zhou Yuanchao squinted his eyes and sneered, haha, I hope you don't have any wild ideas. After speaking, Zhou Yuanchao ignored Assistant Wu's ugly expression. Assistant Wu was exposed by Zhou Yuanchao in front of him, and he was very angry. How can this Zhou Yuanchao say that? Deep down, she did have some thoughts about Mr. Huo. From the first time she met Huo Yingji, she fell in love with this elegant and handsome man. She never knew that a man engaged in scientific research could be so handsome and well-dressed. Live a very calm and delicate life. She just likes such a man who is capable, has a similar family background to hers, is handsome, calm and luxurious. Especially tasty. Even though she was more than 10 years younger than Huo Yingji, she didn't think there was a problem and became more and more fanciful. Zhou Yuanchao entered the conference room and said a few words in Huo Yingji's ear. Huo Yingji raised his eyebrows with a solemn expression, then nodded and said, okay, I understand. Then he packed up the folders at hand, looked at everyone in the meeting, and said solemnly, that's it for today's meeting. If there are any questions, let's continue the discussion. We will continue the meeting in 3 days. Since the establishment of the research, He Tian has never asked Huo Yingja to skip work and go home. Huo Yingja thought that something must have happened at home, and it was very difficult. Holding back the panic in his heart, Huo Yingja walked quickly to the office, put away the documents, locked the safe, and prepared to go home as soon as possible. When Assistant Wu saw Huo Yingja coming, he quickly made tea and sent it in. Huo Yingja said to Zhou Yuanchao, who was following him, "I have something to do. I will ask Deputy Chief Engineer Zhou to manage the work of the institute. If there is anything that cannot be decided, wait until I come back." "Mr. Huo, our construction schedule is so tight." Assistant Wu made tea, and graceful walked in with a face that she thought was pretty. Huo Yingja squinted his eyes, looked at Assistant Wu, and said, "First of all, you must knock on the door when you enter my office from now on, even if you are my assistant. Secondly, I don't like drinking tea made by others. Thirdly, I am the chief engineer of this institute, you are not. If the work is my business, not yours, I know how to distribute it." Huo Yingja's words were cruel and poisonous. When Assistant Wu heard this, he became angry and said, "If you can't complete the task, the superiors will be angry." "That's my business," Huo Yingja sneered. "You are not allowed to enter my office in the future, otherwise you will be punished for stealing secrets." "Deputy Chief Engineer Zhou, Assistant Wu is not suitable to be my assistant, arrange for her to work in other positions." Zhou Yuanchao knew that the boss was angry, but the woman had herself to blame. Thinking that he has a backing in the military, he wants to dictate and dream. You will regret it." Assistant Wu was too angry to say a complete sentence. She had never been treated like this before. Huo Yingja didn't even look at Assistant Wu and said sternly, "Immediately execute my order." After saying that, he left in a hurry. "Yes, Chief Engineer Huo," Zhou Yuanchao responded. "Assistant Wu, there is another place in the logistics department. You can pack your things and someone will take you there." "You can't do this to me," Assistant Wu said. "I was sent from above to supervise your work." It didn't matter that Assistant Wu didn't say this. Zhou Yuanchao became even more angry when he heard this topic. This Assistant Wu kept saying that he was sent by the superiors to supervise the work. He didn't know how to pretend to understand, and he gave orders blindly. It is safer to move away from the core area. If this woman still makes trouble, then there is reason to kick her out. It's all up to Mr. Huo to decide whether it's possible or not. Zhou Yuanchao said, "You'd better pack your things quickly, or I'll call the security guards to come over and help." Assistant Wu felt very depressed at the thought of being driven away, but he did not dare not to do as he was told. It would be even more embarrassing if he was escorted away by guards. If she fails to complete the task, she will be unlucky, so she should be careful. Zhou Yuanchao got into the car and said to Zhang Ning, who was driving, "Zhang Ning, go home and drive faster." Yes, Zhang Ning started the car and Xie Wu looked around alertly. Speeding all the way, we finally arrived at Maohutong in the shortest possible time. When He Tian saw Huo Yingja coming back, he quickly told Huo Yingja what happened. Huo Yingja was shocked when he heard this. The spirit and Su Weiwei were entangled. He stretched out his fingers and counted a few times to understand. That vixen has not yet transformed, but already has spirituality. However, the spiritual energy in the human world is thin and not enough for her to transform. So Su Weiwei used secret techniques to kill a beautiful woman and borrowed her body. Su Weiwei wanted to take revenge on the Huo family but did not dare to come to Yanjing, so she set her sights on Huo Zheqian in Nanhu province. "Now that Li Xian has found out the truth, I will go to Nanhu province," Huo Yingja said hurriedly. "In the afternoon, I will let my clone go to work at the research institute." "You don't have to worry." He Tian nodded and said, "You go quickly. That woman can charm the uncle to the point of divorce, which shows that she has lost her mind. She doesn't want the old wife anymore, and there are probably a lot of power and money transactions in private. You go there, not only have to deal with Su Wei and the vixen, but also the uncle's matter. If he is really involved, the problem can be solved by not just removing him. It is easy to remove Huo Jekian, but it will definitely cause the Huo family to suffer huge losses and even affect Huo Jekan. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 1220. 1219. When Huo Yingzhe heard that Su Wei was involved with the vixen, and that the vixen had seduced his uncle, he knew that something was wrong. Perhaps his uncle had been deceived by the vixen and had done many things he shouldn't have done. No need to think, everyone knew that Su Wei would take revenge on the Huo family. His uncle could resist the temptation of normal people, but he was just an ordinary person after all. But if the other party was a spirit, that wouldn't work. Well, I know, Huo Yingzhe said, I will take care of these things, don't worry. After that, Huo Yingzhe packed up some things, especially the things that Granny Ma had given him, and left with Li Xian. This time, Su Wei couldn't escape again. On the way, Li Xian told Huo Yingzhe how powerful Su Wei was, and his magic didn't work on Su Wei. Brother-in-law, I'll deal with the vixen, and you deal with Su Wei. Li Xian didn't want his momentary negligence to cause a big mistake, so he wanted to take the vixen in as soon as possible and beat her to death alive. He didn't want to let a little vixen affect his wonderful life in the human world. Well, let's do it, Huo Yingzhe nodded. Let's get it done as soon as possible. I'm afraid it will change if we delay. The two came to Nanhu province, and Huashan had just arrived, so it was just right to act together. As for Li Xian, the Snake King, he is now a big star. When he goes out, he wears a hat, a mask, and sunglasses, and must keep it secret and disguise himself before going out. Now he is doing something like this, so he must be protected. The Snake King is also invisible. If he can't be invisible, he will change into another person. Huo Yingzhe first came to the place where his uncle lived and found that his uncle was not in the compound. Huo Yingzhe had to look for him according to his uncle's breath, and he actually found him in a luxurious villa outside. Lying outside the window, Huo Yingzhe looked inside from the outside and saw his uncle sitting on the sofa in a daze, and there was another man and woman in the room. Huo Yingzhe knew that person, and he was actually his uncle's secretary. Huo Yingzhe and Li Xian went in and blocked both ends. Without Su Wei's protection, the vixen had nowhere to hide. She grabbed the man on her body and threw him at Li Xian, trying to take the opportunity to escape. After Li Xian dodged, he cast a spell and hit the vixen. Huo Yingzhe threw a small jade artifact and hit the vixen. Ah! With a scream, the vixen fell to the ground. Li Xian, after all, we are both from the demon world. Why do you have to bully a fellow villager like me for an outsider? After being hit, the vixen turned into a human body with a fox face and said in a shrill voice. Li Xian sneered, since you have come to the human world, you should abide by the rules of the human world. You have magic skills, you can find a place to practice, but you can't stay in the human world and harm innocent lives. I don't want to hurt them either, but the spiritual energy here is too scarce. If I don't absorb their spiritual energy, not only can I not practice, but it will weaken my cultivation, the fox spirit said confidently. I do this to protect myself. Let's not talk about this for now. The only chance to save your life is in front of you. Tell me, where is Su Wei? Li Xian asked. If you tell me, I will send you back to the demon world and you will start practicing again. If you don't tell me, I will kill you directly and let your cultivation end here and disappear. The fox spirit shrank a few times when she heard Li Xian's words, twisting her beautiful body to seduce Li Xian and Huo Yingzhe. Huo Yingzhe threw out another jade-like thing and hit the fox spirit again. The original human body also turned into a fox body. It is always more pleasing to the eye with fur covering it than the human body. Ah, another scream, I'll tell you, I'll tell you. Even though Su Weiwei had helped her before, she had already done a lot to repay Su Weiwei, and she no longer owed Su Weiwei anything. Now she revealed Su Weiwei's whereabouts for the sake of self-protection and peace of mind. She lives in Heiya village, 100 kilometers south of the west of the city. You should be able to find her there, the vixen said, but it's not certain. After all, after fighting with you last time, she was worried that you would inform the Huo family, and maybe she has already escaped. Hearing this, Huo Yingja felt bad. Li Xian, keep an eye on this vixen, Huo Yingja ordered, walked to his uncle, and took his pulse at his wrist. This Su Weiwei, it seems, wants to die. She actually put a poison in his family's body. No wonder his uncle could do ridiculous things. It turned out that he was poisoned. Huo Yingja took out 2 pills and gave them to his uncle, and then to Secretary Li. Huo Yingja took out a bottle of powder from the box he carried with him and drew a circle around Huo Jagan and Secretary Li. As soon as he finished drawing the circle, he saw small worms coming out of Huo Jagan's mouth one after another. Huo Jagan, who was originally swollen, gradually became thinner. Secretary Li was no exception and kept spitting out disgusting worms. Those worms hurriedly fled, but they died immediately after touching the powder on the circle. When no more worms came out of Huo Jagan and Secretary Li's mouths, Huo Yingja took out 2 pills and gave them to them. Huo Jagan opened his eyes with difficulty and was about to see who saved him, but Huo Yingja didn't want his uncle to know his other side, so he knocked Huo Jagan and Secretary Li unconscious. Li Xian, please watch out for this vixen and send my uncle, Secretary Li, back to the family home, Huo Yingja explained. I'm going to track Su Weiwei. After saying that, Huo Yingja jumped out of the window and ran towards Heiya village. In the past, Huo Yingja might not have been able to track Su Weiwei. After all, Su Weiwei had secret skills to protect her. But it was different now. In the past few years, he had studied the Gu technique and the head-lowering technique in detail, and even secretly went to Thailand to study. Finally understand what's going on. It seems mysterious, but in fact it is very simple. It is to use drugs to control the poisonous insects to control the human body. At the same time, Huo Yingja also verified that what Granny Ma gave him was indeed something to deal with top-notch Gu insects. Now Su Weiwei has killed someone, and the body used by the vixen is that of a young woman, so Su Weiwei must die. The original promise to Granny Ma was based on the premise that Su Weiwei would not do any evil and kill innocent people. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 1221. 1220. But she killed someone and used these secrets to cause trouble. Just now Huo Yingja had a rough feeling that Su Weiwei dared to poison his uncle, and of course he would also poison others. Huo Yingja naturally had no reason to let Su Weiwei go. Su Weiwei would definitely die this time. When Huo Yingja arrived at Heiya village, he found that several cultivators had also arrived at Heiya village. It's just that these people couldn't see the invisible Huo Yingja, but from their conversation, Huo Yingja still heard some information. Elder brother, that witch has harmed so many people this time, we must catch her, and we can make meritorious service in Jubu, one of the young men said to the middle-aged man in front of him. The middle-aged man smiled and said, that's natural. We have dispatched so many people this time. If we still can't catch the witch, we won't have the shame to go back. A dozen important officials in Nanhu province have been poisoned. This is a big deal. Yes, even that person from the Huo family is here, the little Taoist replied. Should we help? After all, the Huo family is in full swing now. Of course we have to help. The Huo family is a kind family and has done a lot of good things. If we help people like this, We are also doing good deeds and accumulating virtue. The middle-aged Taoist priest said, that Huo Jekian deserves to be from a big family. He has a tough temperament. After being controlled by the gu, there was still a trace of consciousness. Although it was only for a short time every day, it was quite difficult. He had scolded his wife Song Chunli away before. It was estimated that Song Chunli had returned to Yanjing and was not in danger. At the same time, he was notified. Huo family. Brother, does Song Chunli know that something happened to her husband? The young Taoist priest was puzzled. Even if Song Chunli returned, he would not be able to notify the Huo family. Haha, the middle-aged Taoist priest smiled and continued to explain, even if Song Chunli doesn't know the whole story, the Huo family will send someone over, so after we caught this witch, we also rescued Huo Jekian. Huo Yingji smiled when he heard the answers from the middle-aged Taoist priest and the young Taoist priest. Only such people who practice Taoism will have good results. After this matter is over, Huo Yingji will return the favor. After receiving Huo Yingji's notice, Huashan rushed to Heiya village without caring about anything else. Huashan has now reached the third level of practice. Those two Taoist priests, together, were no match for Huashan. Huashan disguised himself, and after arriving at Heiya village, he happened to meet two Taoist priests. Brother, why are you here? The middle-aged Taoist priest asked with his fists clasped. Since he didn't take action at the beginning, he was not necessarily an enemy. It has always been their code of conduct to be polite before fighting. Huashan cupped his fists and returned the salute. I was entrusted by others to capture the head-turning master. Oh, then our purpose is the same. Let's go in together. Our chances of winning will be better. The middle-aged Taoist priest smiled and walked in front. That's great, Huashan followed behind, masked. Huo Yingji had already arrived at Su Weiwei's residence first, but the stilted building where Su Weiwei was located was already empty. Without stopping, Huo Yingji began to use the so-called Tai secret technique to track, and indeed found the direction in which Su Weiwei escaped. It turned out that Su Weiwei still used the old method of escaping directly into the dense forest. The thicker the trees and grass, the safer she would be. Huo Yingji followed Su Weiwei's traces and chased after her. Huo Yingji went after him, not forgetting to tell Huashan who was behind him. In Huashan, two Taoist priests saw the empty stilted building and knew that the witch had escaped. Just as the middle-aged Taoist priest was looking for traces, Huashan had already left and followed Huo Yingji's instructions. When the middle-aged Taoist priests calculated that the direction was exactly the same as the direction Huashan left, they knew that Huashan was an expert. If that's the case, then follow along. Huo Yingji kept looking in front, and he could feel Su Weiwei getting closer and closer. Su Weiwei also felt the danger approaching and kept running forward, almost at any cost to her body. There was only one thought in her mind, and it couldn't be caught by Huo Yingji. The master died at the hands of Huo Yingji. Although she had practiced secret techniques, she was no match for Huo Yingji. Hey, if I had known she would have continued to practice with great concentration, and then come out to take revenge when she was successful. But in the lonely mountain forest, it is too lonely. She missed the prosperity and colorful life outside, so she couldn't wait to come out of the mountains and forests. When she appeared in the crowd and others called her a monster, Su Weiwei was stunned. She stole a mirror from a house and looked at it, only to realize that she had been disfigured. The wrinkles on her face are somewhat like the lines on Granny Mappa's face. I used to think it was a tattoo, but it wasn't. Now I realize that it was the sequelae of practicing secret arts. She cannot appear openly in front of others, and even if she appears, she can only wear a mask. Those who were scared out of their wits by her were killed by Su Weiwei in a rage, and she kept killing people. Su Weiwei had long forgotten Granny Ma's warning, and felt that killing someone could calm the anger in her heart, make her feel better, and even give her an indescribable pleasure. In the process of killing, She also gained money and identity, and gradually integrated into modern life. By chance, she met a vixen who wanted to transform. It was impossible for the vixen to transform, so she made an agreement with the vixen. Both of them were people or animals that were different from ordinary people, so it was reasonable to unite. But what they did was even more cruel, killing a young girl and taking over her body. The two of them, one in the light and the other in the dark, were getting closer to the big shot step by step, getting closer to the Huo family, and seeking revenge on the Huo family. In Su Weiwei's heart, her miserable life was all caused by the Huo family, so she wanted revenge. Huo Yingzhe was very powerful, but Su Weiwei didn't know that he was no match for him, so she didn't dare to enter Beijing rashly. Although she can't enter Beijing, she can deal with Huo Zheqian. Su Weiwei was thinking while running away. One moment I was excited, and the next moment I regretted it. Very contradictory. She is very fast, like a leopard, and is said to be in the lush mountain forest. Last time, Granny Ma used a secret technique to prevent Huo Yingzhe from tracking Su Weiwei, but this time, without Granny Ma's help, Huo Yingzhe could easily find Su Weiwei's escape route based on clues. Finally, at the edge of a cliff, Su Weiwei was about to turn back and find another way, but Huo Yingzhe had already appeared on her only path, blocking Su Weiwei. Huo Yingzhe looked at the ugly monster in front of him. If Su Weiwei had not gone astray, she might still be a famous singer in Xiangjiang, living a life of feasting and feasting. She would not have killed the principled Granny Ma, nor would she be living in exile now. It's almost over, and I feel a little melancholy. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 1222. 1221. Su Weiwei felt sad. She tried so hard but still couldn't escape. This time, she couldn't escape. I don't know if she is sad or relieved now. You won't let me go. I know I'm dead this time, Su Weiwei said softly. She did so many wrong things and killed so many people. She should have died long ago. Huo Yingzhe nodded and said, yes, you deserve to die. You didn't cherish the opportunity your master gave you with his life. You killed my Granny Ma. Su Weiwei was a little excited. It's not me, it's you, Huo Yingzhe said. She could have lived for a few more years, but in order to give you a chance to escape, she gave you her life poison, so she naturally died. Su Weiwei was stunned, a little regretful, and asked again, don't hurt my mother, she is a poor woman. She has an irresponsible husband and a crazy daughter, and she has never had a good life. Then let's see what you do, Huo Yingzhe said. Anyway, no matter what, you will die. Su Weiwei closed her eyes and said, you are a gentleman, I hope you keep your word, just do it. Huo Yingzhe stretched out his hand, and a small bottle in the palm of his hand had been delivered to Su Weiwei. Su Weiwei was a little scared, but she thought that even if she dodged, she couldn't avoid it, and it would also implicate her mother who was far away in Hong Kong, so it was better to die. She should have died long ago in this ghostly state now. Su Weiwei took the small bottle tremblingly, pulled off the lid in one go, and poured it into her mouth. Suddenly, Su Weiwei's body trembled violently, her eyes bulged, her internal organs seemed to be twisted violently, her face was distorted, and her face was covered with sweat, she even groaned in pain. Huo Yingzhe looked at Su Weiwei expressionlessly. Some people are destined to die. It's a fight to the death, and death is the end of it all. A quarter of an hour later, Su Weiwei lay on the ground motionless. A long worm crawled out of her mouth, and then Huo Yingzhe sprinkled a bottle of medicine powder on the long worm. Suddenly, a squeaking sound was heard, and the worm made a chirping sound. The worm was completely dead and turned into a pool of black sewage. Huo Yingzhe cast a fiery fire art, and burned Su Weiwei's body and the pool of blood directly. Only a small pool of dust was left, which also drifted away with the wind. Dust to dust, earth to earth. Everything returned to calm. Huo Yingzhi sent a message to Huashan, asking him to leave. He had solved the problem and was going back to his uncle to deal with various things. The middle-aged Taoist priest and the young Taoist priest followed Huashan. When Huashan got the news, he used the wind control technique to get rid of the two Taoist priests behind him and returned to the city. The two Taoist priests did not dare to follow rashly. They slowed down and found that there was no trace of Huashan. "Brother, was that man a bad guy just now?" the young Taoist priest asked curiously, which made him too curious. "Junior brother, there are no real good people or real bad people in the world," the middle-aged Taoist priest replied, "as long as you don't hurt the innocent and don't harm the world, justice is in the hearts of the people." The young Taoist priest seemed to understand. "Then should we continue to chase?" the young Taoist priest asked. "I feel that the witch's breath suddenly weakened, as if it was gradually disappearing." "Yes," the middle-aged Taoist priest looked at the Qinglong disc in his hand. "The magnetic needle returned to stability after a violent tremor just now, and now it has returned to its original position. We continue to chase, whether dead or alive, there must be an explanation." "Yes," the young Taoist priest agreed. The two brothers continued to search deep in the dense forest. As for whether they can find it, that is another matter. When Huo Yingzhi and Huashan arrived at the family compound, Li Xian had already arranged for Huo Jagan to rest. Because he was poisoned before and overdrawn his vitality, Huo Jagan was very weak. Fortunately, Huo Yingzhi took out the gu worm from Huo Jagan's body before killing Su Weiwei, so after the mother gu in Su Weiwei's body was burned to death, the child gu hidden in the bodies of those officials lost control and fainted on the spot. The weak ones died directly. Even if they were sent to the hospital, the doctor could only check that there were parasites in the body and use drugs to kill the insects. Without the control of the mother gu, the child gu will not live long. After treatment, the parasites in the body are eliminated. Even if they can wake up, they will be seriously injured. In the provincial government, more than a dozen people were admitted to the hospital at the same time, and 6 of them were directly disappointed during the process of being sent to the hospital. Huo Yingzhi originally wanted to wake up his uncle and ask what happened. But he was worried that his uncle's body could not bear it, so he read the consciousness of his uncle and Secretary Li. After piecing together, he finally knew the general situation. Huo Yingzhi used various means to act separately with Li Xian to clean up Huo Jagan. Such a major incident occurred in Nanhu province, and the people of the Provincial Public Security Department immediately launched an investigation. Many things pointed to Lu Qian, the director of the office. From the information Huo Yingzhi had read before, his uncle was framed by Lu Qian and was poisoned by the gu. Someone has to take responsibility for this matter. Since Lu Qian and Su Weiwei, the vixen, are in cahoots, let him take responsibility, and it is not wrong to accuse him. When Huo Jagan woke up, it was already the next day. Huo Yingzhi had already done all the work and let Lu Qian take charge. Last night, he handed over all the matters to Huashan, and then took Li Xian and went into hiding, not wanting to be exposed. "Mr. Huo, are you awake?" Huo Yingzhi hurried forward and poured a glass of water for his uncle. Huo Jekian opened his eyes and saw that there was another person in the room. He was a little scared, but he suddenly felt that he was conscious and clear. He was no longer confused as before, and it didn't seem like there were bugs crawling around in his body. "Who are you?" Huo Jekian asked with a frown. He was sure he didn't know this person. Huashan solemnly replied, "Hello, I am sent by Huo Yingzhi to rescue you. You were bewitched before, and I have helped you get rid of the bewitchment and killed the vixen and the witch. You are safe now." Huo Jekian felt slightly relieved when Huashan heard Huo Yingzhi's name. "Where's Secretary Li?" Huo Jekian asked. He seemed to have implicated Secretary Li. "Secretary Li is resting in another room," Huashan replied. "You can rest peacefully. Someone will probably come to ask for your work this afternoon. After all, The poison incident has caused a huge sensation, and people have been sent here. When Huojekian heard this, he felt sad. He was not completely irrational. He vaguely remembered that he had done many wrong things. Seeing Huojekian's expression, Huashan guessed that Huojekian was feeling sad, so he said, "Mr. Huo, don't worry, a few of us have already cleared away those tails for you. Even if an investigation team is set up outside, we can't find your head superior.